Hello and welcome to the New Jersey Bankers and New Jersey Bank Marketing Association video podcast. This is episode 3 in our October podcast series. In this episode, we'll hear from Michael Kaufman of Spectraforms, who will introduce our speakers, Aaron Hale from PCG Premium Color Graphics, and Paul Hudrick of Eastman Kodak.Company. Now to the lectern and Michael Kaufman.
Mike Kaufman, Cox Stationers and Printers / Spectraform, we're one and the same. The reason Spectraform's here this morning is I was at a meeting last year, and you had a speaker then, as the speakers this morning brought up, telling you all the things you needed to do. You need to be selling more of your more profitable products to your current clients. You need to be gaining new deposits, especially the small business. And everybody tells you this, and there's no disagreements in the room. But nobody's told you how to do it. How do you embrace these people? How do you gather these people, make them want to become your client, and sell more to your current client? Those are the real questions. How do you do this? How do you start that program? How do you get that process rolling? So I tugged at Marty, and I told him that we have the solutions. So what I did this morning is I brought in 2 experts who really can describe it. We have Paul Hudrick from Eastman Kodak. We have Aaron Hale in the back from PCG. And these people are going to tell you how to get done what everybody keeps telling you need to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Paul.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. And I'll start out by saying I know a lot about marketing. I know virtually nothing about the banking industry other than my own personal experiences. So I'm going to do what I always hate speakers do. I'm just, to support this first slide, I'm just going to read some notes that I have just so I make sure I get all the points across. And from there on, the next 3 hours, I'll just talk free, okay? But, you know, the first 2 speakers really laid the groundwork well for what we're going to talk about. And you know, the whole, I think the basis going forward, and you know, the internet is a great tool, right, for expanding our reach to our customers, for our customers to come back to us. The problem is, as strong as it is in giving them the ability to contact us and us contact them, it also sort of breaks the personal bonds that are created in a relationship. Because let's face it, I mean, people buy things from people that they like, from people that they trust. And I know through my own personal experiences, I've probably been in my bank branch maybe once in the last year, and that was just because my ATM card expired and I had to get a new one. That's the only reason I've ever been in my bank branch. So now, to take that a step further, I've been banking with the same bank for like 15 years now, and at the time, they had the products I needed because my children were small. Well, you know what? At this point, my kids have graduated college, they're grown, they moved out. I'm still at the same bank. There's probably other banks that could help me out a lot more with what I personally need, but you know what? No one's actually contacted me or told me. And to tell you the truth, I'm too busy to be looking this stuff up. So you have to find a way to connect with me. I know my bank hasn't connected with me. I'm just there now because it's convenient, and it's just easier not to change things. But if somebody gave me a valid or a good reason too, I would. So, you know, to kind of play on those thoughts, right? The banking industry has undergone tremendous change in recent years. Since the government's deregulation of products and markets, there's been an increase in mergers and acquisitions in the banking and the insurance industries, and the functions of investment companies and commercial banks are starting to converge. So banks and investment companies are consolidating to become large, complex organizations offering a broad range of services, including insurance and annuities. And let's face it, insurance is increasingly being viewed as a commodity because, let's face it, it's the same thing to everybody. You know, per se, you know, there is no message out there that resonates that there's a better reason to buy insurance from me or from you or even to bank with me or you. So what this happens, you know, the result of this is an exceedingly competitive environment in which many firms are starting to diversify their services in order to drive growth, you know. And you know, the first speaker, Steve, really brought that point up, you know, really brought that point home. And I could see the, you know, I could see the sense in that whole value prop that they have there. Unfortunately, for those that are in, you know, and again, from the little bit I know about banking, from those that are in established banking systems, you just can't change your organization like that. It just doesn't happen. So, you know, how do you start to get personal with your customers, right? How do you talk to your customers? And, you know, and again, touching on what I said before, new technology has also had a tremendous impact on the industry. Automation and streamlining of processes is driving new internal efficiencies and enabling globalization of services. And, you know, we all know how the internet has become integral to the customers, right? They can check their accounts, make payments, and products and services. And again, that's a great thing. But at the same time, you know, I always tell this little anecdote in that I grew up in downtown Philadelphia with my grandparents. Once a week, deposited checks. She probably paid her utility bills. They all knew her when she walked in. They used to know me as a little kid. They'd give me a piece of candy. You know what? That doesn't exist anymore. When I walk into my branch, I don't even know who the branch manager is, to tell you the truth. And it's kind of a sad state of affairs in a way. So, but you know what? It's logical in a way. Someone like me who travels a lot, who really just deals on the internet, this is the relationship I develop. But at the same time, you know what? There is a way to connect to your customers, and there is a way to talk to your customers and know them a little bit better. So, knowing all that, right? What are the marketing trends? Obviously, brand building. We all talk about brand building, and brand is very important. But I think even more important is the idea of relationship building, or the loyalty factor. Again, I come from the sales side of things, and in sales, one of the oldest sayings is it's 8 to 11 times harder to open up a new customer than it is to sell someone you already have a relationship more stuff, right, so to speak. And let's face it, we're all, no matter what it is that you're in business for, we're all in business to make money. That's the bottom line here. So, again, it's much easier to make money off your existing relationships as you're also growing new relationships, right? So, what are some of the new innovative strategies to capture new market opportunities? And, again, the first two speakers spoke pretty well about it. The idea of niche marketing, finding a niche that just seems to play well with your organization or in your area, and then actually speaking to that niche individually, right? Multicultural marketing. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but that whole Got Milk campaign that was out there for the longest time with Cal Ripken, when you translate it, they tried that in Mexico. Got milk in Spanish means, are you lactating? Now, obviously, that didn't play real well in the Spanish marketplace, but nobody thought enough to really see, how does this culture see this? And again, it's the idea of, how do I speak to someone as an individual and not just as an entity or just one big giant pot of customers, right? And also, because there's a lot more media out there, people communicate with one another in different ways. I mean, I know myself, I read the newspaper every day, right? And I have my kids are 26 and 22. Maybe it's bad parenting. I've never seen them open up a newspaper. But yet when I talk to them, they know what's going on. They know the news. They're getting it from somewhere else. Who knows where maybe it's TV, maybe it's the internet. Who knows where they're getting it from? But the point is, they're getting the same information I am, just through a different vehicle. Well, knowing that, right, when you talk to your customers, when you sell or market to your customers or try to get new customers, you have to realize that not all of them get their information in the same way. And I would venture to guess, I mean, me being in my 50s, I tend to still do things like, I guess, in an analog manner a lot, even though I'm in a technology industry. The younger generation coming up, more and more of those people are going to communicate in these other media, right? So, knowing that, TV, the internet, mass marketing, it's still an important way to build your brand and get your message out there. But you also have to realize that going forward, personalized marketing is the way to actually start closing sales. There's one thing to make awareness known. There's another thing to actually close that sale. The reality of marketing is that at any one time when you send your marketing message out there, only about 2% of your audience are actually in a position to buy at that time. So for one, it has to be continual marketing message. It has to go over time. Okay, and for two, people I know myself. I travel all week, right? When I come home at the end of the week, there's a stack of mail like this big waiting on the end of the kitchen table. It takes me probably 1 minute to go through that stack of mail. And to tell you the truth, unless it has either the IRS in the upper left-hand corner or Bass Pro Shops, it's probably in the trash, Unless somebody finds a way to stop me in my tracks, maybe it's something that interests me. Again, if somebody knows my interests, if somebody knows what my lifestyle is, it's like, I always say, you can send me a coupon and give me free Pampers, and it just doesn't do anything for me. It's not going to get me to go to your store. Now, you know what? Again, if you send me something that's something to do with my lifestyle, I'm probably going to be interested. And let's face it, today's financial services customers, number one, they're more educated. There are more and more college graduates out there. Two, they're more diverse. We're dealing with, I don't have the statistics in hand, but the demographics of the U.S. have changed drastically over the years, when it includes, not only immigrants, but just people of different races, within this country. And again, all of a sudden, they all have different needs. They all have different cultures. They all have different things that are, let's call it their hot buttons, right, for lack of a better term. And more people are more value and price oriented. You're getting to the point where, we have families that, let's face it, are multi-income families. And I mean, almost all the young people that I know today, there aren't a whole lot of people where the woman stays home and is a housewife anymore. And, you know, the point of that being, they're watching their money. You know, they're watching where it goes. They don't have the time to be researching things, and they don't have the time to go through a stack of mail this big. They're going to go through whatever the heck, whatever grabs their attention, whatever they're interested in. So, you know, I guess where is the digital print opportunity? The whole idea of that is to build this one-to-one relationship, you know, to make it timely, to make it relevant to that person, and to make it personal. You know, it's kind of interesting. In Steve, the first speaker, you know, he was talking about, you know, how do you connect with your customers, right? Well, there's a group out there. I don't know how many people have ever heard of Peppers and Rogers. It's a husband and wife team, and they coined the phrase one-to-one marketing. That was back in probably the late 80s, I guess. Well, one of the anecdotes they tell is of a small bank in a small New England town. And what they said was, you know what, the big problem at this bank was that there was no place to park. It was in the middle of a downtown. Nobody had anywhere to leave their car. And some people, you know, they want to come in and do a banking transaction, but then maybe, who knows, pick their dry cleaning up across the street, right? So they started a program where if you were a customer of theirs and you had business to do within the bank, you could park your car in their lot, basically, because what was happening was their lot was being abused. So this happened to be one Saturday morning, right? This gentleman pulls up to the bank, goes up to the guard, and the guard said, you know, are you an account holder here? The gentleman said, yes. And he said, well, do you have any business in the bank? The guy said, no, I just need to go across the street and pick up my dry cleaning. And the guard wouldn't let him in. Now, at this point, the guy becomes infuriated. Now, the guard has no way of knowing this, but this person that he just turned away is the president of one of their largest deposit holders. And you know what happened? Within 3 weeks, this guy pulled all his funds out of that bank. You know, you might consider that petty, but the idea is, you know, how much effort would it have taken for that bank to, let's say, even identify who are the top 5 or 10% deposit holders or customers within our bank, and just give them a little free pass card that basically just said, when you go up to the guard, just show him this. He'll let you in for free and make them know that only a handful of customers got this. You know, that's kind of the idea. That's getting personal with your customers. That's finding a way of thanking them for the business that they've done with you. And let's face it, that's what people want today. I mean, we're all running around in circles. I mean, it's a big rat race out there, right? But people like to be thanked. They like to be recognized for the business that they've done in the past. You know, they like to be thought of as a valuable customer. And how hard really is that, you know? I mean, so, you know, one thing that financial institutions have is data. I mean, and that's really what drives us. In fact, you know, you may have heard the term variable data printing. Well, I really call it data-driven communications, because that's what it's really about today. It's taking the data that you have and communicating with your customers or potential customers, not just through print, but through other media. I mean, you have your customer's name and address information, right? You know what products and services they currently are previously used. You know, you may know something about their lifestyle, their age, their income, their family status. I mean, if you know as a bank that I have small children, wouldn't it be interesting to send me something to offer me a way to save for my children's education, giving me the reasons why I should be doing that? It's things like that. In other words, now again, if I got that mail, or at my age, it would show no interest. It would just go right into the trash can. There'd be no reason for me to open it up. And let's face it, there's a lot of publicly available demographic information out there also. So what can you really do? You know, you can personalize. And, I think we've all kind of gotten a little new seeing our name and things. But I just brought a few things here. You really can't see them, but I'll just show them out to make the point. Here's one where the recipient's name is actually written in graffiti on the side of a subway car. Where, you know what, if you got this in the mail, even if you have no idea what this is about and you're not interested in it, it's kind of cool because your name is actually in graffiti on the side of the subway car. You might even hang it in your office. Or the point of that being, you're going to save this piece. The first job of marketing is to get you to read it and look at it. And that's what a piece like this is going to do. These are educational pieces to the medical industry. And what they're actually doing is they're actually offering a guide to whatever specific, like this person is a general surgery, gastroenterology. This person is an OBGYN. They're offering them the particular materials for that, with the pricing for that, with the discounts for that. The point of that is they're not sending them to a big catalog, right? They're not sending them a big catalog that they're not going to look at. And if it's a type of product that requires a catalog, what you're seeing is more and more people, you get that thing in the mail, what they're doing is sending it to the website. The mail is actually what gets you to act and drives you, and the website is where all that information lives. So that's kind of the strategy that's being followed, right? You can version things. You can create different versions for different types of people. You can customize. You can use the information you have about your customer to really create a unique communication to them. You could also integrate these new communication tools, as I said, and to close it up, we're actually going to, and as Mike said, he put it well, we all talk about, and I don't think anybody, I guess, in this room would disagree with what I'm saying, but at the same time, the big question is, well, how the heck do I do this stuff? There's a company called InfoTrends, okay? They did a study on the future of mail, and 56.3% of all people said that they'd rather get messages that are highly personalized, meaning that apply to them and not just to the other 50,000 people that they mailed this thing out to. And the paradigm shift, right? We always used to think, when you were in marketing, you bought print, it was always the cost per page. What did it cost me to actually print this page? When at the end of the day, is that really what matters? What really matters is, what did it cost me to get a response, right? What did it cost me to get a result? What's my actual ROI? That's really what matters. Not, when you're a marketer, you're buying print. You're, in a sense, well, the way I look at it, when you're a customer and you buy print, right? You don't buy print. You don't buy that postcard or that book. You're actually hiring that to do a job, whatever that job is. Is it to get new customers? Is it to get more business out of a customer? Is it to educate my customer? And this is the way you have to start thinking. What am I actually doing when I'm marketing? When I'm buying this program, I'm hiring it to do a job. So just looking at this is a little confusing, this chart, but it just goes over the idea of, incrementally what these things can be worth. The idea being, like, let's say your budget was $25,000 for a marketing program, and traditionally, the way you normally do things, you could afford to contact about almost 21,000 people. Now, with this newer methodology, obviously it's going to be more expensive. You can really afford to contact about half those people. Now, typically, in a typical mass mailing, the average response you get is about 1%, which leads you to about 208 leads, okay? Which is actually costing you $120 leads. Out of that, let's say you close about 15% of those, you're actually getting 31 new accounts, and let's say the account's worth $10,000, you're getting $310,000 in deposits, right? On the other way, the typical response, or the typical closed sales, the typical response is more like 8% when you're utilizing these other electronic media along with print, okay? What that does is lead to 810 leads. Your actual cost was $31 for each lead, 122 new accounts at $10,000 each. It's $1.2 million. So you can kind of see the difference in how this works. Now, to turn that around, the ROI, basically, the ROI is you netted $285,000 in deposits. Here you netted 1.195 with an increase in deposits of 675% and basically spending the same amount of money. Oops. So you really want to start printing smarter with variable data. You can personalize. Again, you have to stop thinking of just changing words. You can change images. You can change the background. If you're marketing to someone who's elderly, you can have pictures that relate to that person or that, or that lifestyle. If it's a young family, you have a picture of a family on there. Consider campaigns for loans, deposits, pre-approved offers. For example, if you look in your folder there, in the right-hand pocket, you'll actually see examples of, some of the things that can be done. There are actually, is it 6 or 9, Aaron, postcards? 9? There are actually 9 different postcards that are versioned, and as you look at them, you can see what changes is, the address of the bank branch, right? Whether it's probably not a surprise to people in the room, but I don't think that way. Again, I've been with my bank 15 years. I probably bought 7 or 8 vehicles in that 15 years. I bought a couple boats, refinanced my house a couple times, and not once did I call my bank for any of that. And to me, that's kind of interesting. And I never really thought about that until I started to prepare for this. I just never even thought to call my bank. But they also didn't go out of the way to keep in touch with me in any way, other than all they serve for me is a convenient place to move money around, which I don't think that's the value prop that any of you want in this room, right? So the results of this campaign was that they netted $400 for every dollar that they spent in marketing this. And again, that's the bottom line, When you spend this, how much can I expect to get in return?
Heard the term PURLs? Well, they're not the funny little white things bouncing on the screen. It stands for personalized URLs. Fundamentally, the idea is to integrate this with a variable data marketing campaign. So you're taking what's considered an offline media, bringing it online. Like Paul said, the information lives online. The idea with a PURL is to give them something that acts as a call to action that's actually an emotional trigger to get them to go to the site where you want to educate them. It looks something like this, where you utilize the benefit of their name as part of the URL. It drives increased response rates because it's a unique piece. You know, it's like Paul said, you come home, you got a stack of mail on your desk. What's going to take that mail piece and jump out of that pile and make you want to go there? Well, probably the idea that you have a website is very interesting. If for nothing else, you're going to go click on it just to check it out. The landing page graphics will tie in with the mailer, and the beauty of it is that the response and the metrics are actually tracked in real time, so that, you know, was mentioned earlier by Steve that, you know, it's somebody's job, perhaps a branch manager, to track the results and the benefits of the campaign that you invested in. But in this case, by doing it electronically on the web, it has a back-end dashboard that's actually going to help you actually track that campaign in real time, and it will kick out automated leads to you as customers and recipients actually go to this site. So what you're doing is you're building you're building an enhanced data profile on this customer. Because face it, you've done your homework, you're using your good internal data where you've got demographic information, age, income, etc., but you really don't know how they're going to respond. So the idea is that you're going to hedge that by asking them a few questions online. They're going to give you those answers recordable in an exportable database. It's going to tell you how it's going to develop a different kind of closing conversation when you reconnect with them. So it really is a simple equation. It's, you know, the attraction, which is the personalized URL on a mail piece. The interaction, where you take them to the site, you actually ask them to answer a few questions, and then dynamically you come back on the end round, which you know, is dynamic to their responses and the way they interacted with you. And finally, the reaction, just like I spoke of, an automated, generated pre-qualified lead. I mean, what's better than that, to already have that pre-qualification process done for you? This is kind of an example of what an outbound mailer would look like if I was going to utilize personalized URLs in my mail campaign. And just as Steve said, most people that do the banking out there, face it, are female. So it's no mistake that the graphic that's on the outbound mailer is female. So we're going to actually go live and take a look at what a supporting landing page would look like. So now, optionally, you can ask for their email here, or it could simply be a password that you're asking them to enter. Fundamentally, you want to capture that email address and phone number if you can. Whether you do it up front or whether you do it within the landing pages is really up to you. So I've entered the site. It greeted me personally on the welcome page. It's familiar territory to me in that it looks exactly like the mail piece. So I'm comfortable. The mail piece spoke to me in a personal way and hit an emotional trigger within me to take me to the site. And this is where you capture that information that I was talking about, that you incorporate and develop that closing conversation to offer them the new service or product. So this is usually backed up with a promotion, some type of offer, and that offer should be something relevant to the end goal of what you're trying to accomplish. And so here you're asking some fundamental questions. You don't want to take, people are inherently usually a little adverse to surveys, so you keep it simple, 3 to 4 questions, just enough to actually enhance the profile. So I would say that my current investment approach is aggressive. It's more than $100,000, and I prefer to be contacted in the evening. The next thing it's going to do, you're going to ask the recipient to confirm their contact information. And typically this will be pre-populated to the data file that you actually uploaded for the campaign. So you're not asking them to do a lot of activity, other than something that you may not have, which is the email address and the phone number. Now, you saw in this particular example that they asked for the email address up front. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. This is kind of a canned demo. I would wait to this point, because at this point, they've already answered the questions on the survey. You've done your job. Those responses are now recorded in a database and sent off to you as a lead. So I would actually wait to this juncture here to ask for that email address. And then finally, as they click through, again, this is fairly generic as a demo, but you see it addresses them personally. The actual text in here would be something dynamic to how they responded in the survey, restating the fact that I had $100,000 in my portfolio and that someone would be contacting them in the evening, just as they actually asked to be contacted within the survey. So that's a little example of how the Pearl works. And I know we're giving you a lot of information. Who's got a headache? I mean, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's not about the technology. It's about the benefits. And you've heard everybody talk about how you need to segment, how you need to address people personally. People care. That matters, especially when you have when it's so highly competitive. It makes a difference, and there's a ton of statistics out there to support that. So our capabilities. As I mentioned, we can offer you variable data print, short-run color, cross-media marketing with personalized URLs, trans-promotional educating and marketing, distribution and print, and mailing and fulfillment. And the one thing I will say to you, I see a couple deer in the headlights out there, is that in addition to just providing the technology, we'll work with you. We'll help you develop a strategy. We'll take a look at your data. We'll work with you from soup to nuts, from the beginning to the end product. So you've got a lot of support in our services because this stuff is really, really valuable. So we'd like to open the floor up to some question and answers. I'm going to bring Paul back. And Mike, you want to come up here? Questions?
This is sort of a comment and a question, Aaron. It gives me a kick because of the fact that when you send out mail, it is possible to focus and target specifically. In other words, you would not send a piece of mail talking about checking accounts to someone who already has checking accounts.
That's right.
In the bank. So it's not insulting or a waste of time, so that you're really being able to focus and target each recipient.
Absolutely. It's about individualizing the marketing message. As Paul alluded to, it's something called psychographics. You wouldn't send a postcard advertising, say, a new truck to a customer in the Great Plains with the mountains in the background. Or you wouldn't send the recipient with the graffiti on the subway car to somebody in Iowa. You would send that to the person in Manhattan. There's a lot that has to do with that. And it's funny, I had a friend who, when I was explaining this technology to, even though he was kind of fascinated by it, he just said, but I still hate to be marketed to. I said, well, I realize that, but isn't it a lot more, wouldn't you really prefer that rather than having to sort through a pile this high on your desktop, that actually something came to you that was relevant, that spoke to your interest, that was worthy of your time? So, I mean, that's kind of that's the advantage of targeting and segmenting like that. Anyone else?
I would imagine among the banks here represented here today, there's probably some banks that have very sophisticated database marketing systems, and other banks that have no sophistication at all. They maybe have an outside service provider. Could you address the question as to those who have unsophisticated systems? How easy is it for them to do the type of programs that you're showing here?
With our support, it's very easy. I mean, even to go to the extent, typically if you're cross-selling, you want to utilize your own data. But we can help provide you with consumer level and insider type of mailing lists. Say if you're opening up a branch in a new community and you know nothing really about that other than maybe a little bit of demographic background, and you want to target people that have certain home values, certain income, etc., we can help you put a list together with that. And we can also help you in the creative process, developing a marketing message and a creative piece. Does that answer your question?
We're interested in using the bank's internal information, cross-selling to existing customers. How would you handle that?
Well, we would work with you to define your goals. What are you looking to do with the campaign in a cross-sell? Are you looking to sell CDs? Are you looking to sell loans? What is it you're trying to do? How much are you trying to do that with? Taking a look at your depositors, what income segment are you looking to target? And we're going to help you to scrutinize your data to really define those segments, to then develop that campaign around it.
Well, to take that a step further, I guess, and this is just kind of spitballing on my part. But let's say that you wanted to start pushing more auto loans or more recreational vehicle loans. You can actually go to the state. Let's say the state of New Jersey. You actually go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and find out and get a list of all the registered car owners in the state. Find out maybe whose cars are 2 or 3 years old. You can even cross-reference that against your list of current customers, so to speak, and actually find out, well, who among them is probably in a position where, where they're probably going to be looking for another car. If they have a 2 or 3 year old car, they're probably going to be getting ready for another car. The same could apply again to the boat world. You can get a list of the registered boaters, find out who's got a boat, whose boat is so many years old, and you know what? I can cross-reference that against my current customer list and actually get them information and try to garner that business from them. Again, that's business that you didn't have before, that maybe they weren't even aware that you offered it. I mean, that's the scary part is because, it's funny. Steve mentioned one thing about a gentleman he worked with that wasn't in the banking industry. So he wasn't, and I see it all the time because I've been in the printing industry. I haven't been in the printing industry, but I've been in a branch of the printing industry a long time. And we all have this paradigm that we have in our head, or this is the way business is done. And sometimes it's amazing. You get someone with a little different perspective from the outside who can see the forest for the trees, and isn't blinded by isn't blinded by that statement, well, this is how we've always done it, or this is how everybody does it. I think going forward, that's the idea here. It's finding these new and creative ways to creatively sell to people, basically.
In your world, it's a matter of if you're looking to increase the number of small business owners, this is the way to do it. They're busy. I can attest to that. You get a lot of junk mail. When it comes across my desk and it speaks personally to me the way these shows, it might have a website. It might, at that website, list all of the different products you have. Okay? I'm going to take the minute to go there. I'm on email. Who's not using email? Who doesn't check the websites all the time? Okay? So it's really how you direct it to the small business owner and embrace them through this use. There's ways that as they go through these steps, all of a sudden, an email can be sent automatically to your branch manager saying, hey, this person went here. You need to call them. Okay, so instead of trying to gather this data and disperse it, it's real time. The dashboard, which, again, we didn't want to go into, it's amazing. If you have a meeting at 12 o'clock, at 11:45, you could be doing PowerPoint presentation to show how many people went to the site, how many people went to different levels, and what the responses are. So it's something that we can show you more in depth in person. This really just touches on it in limited time.
Is this making sense? That's what I want to know. We want to help you connect the dots, because I know you hear a lot about this, but we want it to make sense for you. Yeah.
Historical data in marketing and not having a long banking history is trying to introduce buying lists and things, and you mentioned about income levels and things like that, and since marketing's not new to me, but banking is, I've been learning recently that, there are issues with targeting income levels, house values, and things like that. So I don't know if you're the correct place to answer that in terms of banking regulations. In doing marketing, as a marketing director for a bank, that I can't buy a list that only targets people in a certain income level. Or only targets people, because I'm used to doing that in other industries. So now I came to banking and I tried to buy this list, and I was told from banking people that, well, no, that it could be considered redlining or things like that, so that I can't use some of these things. Yeah. And I was just curious, are you hooked up with that in any way?
We're giving you some generalized examples. Yes, you're right. There are certain specific industries that have regulatory issues involving how and what kind of data you can use. We did a campaign for a major Japanese auto manufacturer, and their goal was to sell extended warranties. So they were selling insurance products. We couldn't do a promo. We couldn't send out that pearl saying, hey, we'll give you $50 or $20 off your next oil change or whatever because of that regulatory issue. But data isn't just about income level. I mean, you have to play within the guidelines. There's plenty of different ways to think about data. We did a campaign for a fitness club in New York City, and they wanted to target people that had a fitness and nutrition in their lifestyle. We were, through our list provider, we're able to go out there and get people that had those specific type of lifestyle interests. So there's all different types of ways to approach data rather than some of just the specific filters such as income and household. There's ways to do it. I mean, face it, look, it used to be, data's king, it used to be what you know, right? Maybe your branch is your bank is the best bank in the world. Then it was who you know. But if you walk away from here with anything, think about it's what you know about who you know, and use that.
How cost effective is it to do short run color with variable print? I mean, if you have a small list, if your list is, I mean, where does it become?
It's very effective because your return is going to be so much higher. So it's going to cost you, as that illustration showed, we know it's going to cost you more to send out less. However, your return is going to be that much higher. So yeah, and we don't pull any bones about it, which is why we put that slide here. It will cost you more money to send out fewer pieces, but your return is that much higher, so your return on investment is going to more than cover the additional cost. We know that. But again, it's very pointed. It looks beautiful. It could be full color, that high gloss, like the samples that you have in your folders. So it can be very cost effective. You know, do you want to send out 20 of them? No, I don't think that would really be the way to go. But if you have a list of 100, 250, and you want to start building from there, very specific cross-sell or embracing new clients, absolutely. It's a great place to start, and it's just going to keep building.
Were those numbers based on existing customers that you're getting?
Yes. Yes. That was based on a case study. So yeah, it's very, very effective. And you know, the further you drill down, the more you segment and target, prices go up a little bit, but so do your returns. You know, that's the value proposition in the whole thing. It's not about the cost per page. It's really about the cost per depositor, what it's costing you to get that deposit into the bank. And those slides will, you know, we can follow up with you. And really, we can take your own data. We can take a look at your previous campaign you've done and show you an ROI and how that's going to differentiate with this type of approach.
Thank you. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this New Jersey Bankers and NJ Bank Marketing Association podcast program. If you have comments or suggestions, please email steve@professionalpodcasts.com. We post-produce these programs in the studios of Professional Podcasts in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Thanks for being with us, and take good care.